Hello everyone. In this video I will explain another cluster policy which will help us to control usage of domains if we will use kind from istio like as virtual service. I will try explain in this cluster policy usage of API call inside of Kubernetes based on source of match to control flow our object. Just imagine we have one kind virtual service. If in case of this virtual service we'll use some gateway, it's actually kind of the istio, and if we define domain name which it must be validated. In case of domain name which we cannot write, it will not let us to create this virtual service kind because it will go to analyze namespace. So what does it mean? Let me switch to the cluster policy rule and explain each line. Right now I applied this cluster policy. If I will execute, we will see validate public DNS eligible, it's right there. So this cluster policy says if this kind will come to Kubernetes cluster, it will not work for in case of namespace which start with istio. In precondition we says from admission review inside of request object spec gateways of this match will be any of these gateways. If I will do right now kubectl get gv inside of istio-system, we will see we have inside of istio-system this istio ingress gateway public, this one. And if nothing will come from here, it will be empty list, of course precondition not match, so we must let this virtual service to work, because we say only in case of if inside of gateways object will be this one, if our virtual service uses it. So if I will switch to virtual service, it's object with the definition of the host which we're trying to use, gateway which we're trying to use. It doesn't matter this part actually, the main point, both of them, because we analyze these parts. So I'm switching to context from official page of the Kyverno. So main point, we must learn the built-in language of the Kyverno, GMS pass functions and built-in functions of Kyverno to write more cool policies. Because without them we cannot play with the objects of kinds or any key values which comes from admission review. So I'm defining here some variable inside of context and do API call. I'm going to get information from request namespace, it's actually virtual service itself, and do API call to Kubernetes for the namespace and says if inside of this namespace with a GMS pass metadata under metadata annotations will be this key, I'm going to get the value. So it means actually this key must be present and I'm going to get this value. So important part here, we must prepare our rule to parse this part, even if we will use comma with spaces to split our DNS names which we use inside of virtual service and the hosts. So this part going to get it. If there is nothing, we will return empty here. So just imagine right now we didn't define inside of namespace annotation opso info load public hosts, and nothing will be returned to this context, and inside of comparison I'm saying validate in deny condition if inside of request object hosts. As we see inside of virtual service we have list under hosts. We are going to get object replace spaces with nothing and split object with a comma. So we are going to collect under annotations all domain names and compare it from hosts which comes from virtual service itself. So I'm going to simulate it right now. It means in case of virtual service, if we use this gateway and define this host must be defined under annotation of the namespace with this annotation and with value comma which we defined here. So right now I'm going to try to apply namespace without annotation. If it is without annotation, and at the same time, we can start even without definition of gateway because precondition will not match, and in this case virtual service must be applied. If we will do, it will work because it's not using gateway which would define it here as we see in precondition. And do that, I will delete it and returning back to use this gateway. If I will try to apply it, it's not let us to create because it's going to create some host, but under namespace annotation not defined, we cannot apply it because nothing to compare. As I said before, empty will return and we can't compare it. If I will open namespace again, try to apply namespace, and then try to apply virtual service. It is working because we can compare it. This domain, and this domain already defined there. And if I will try to delete it again and open something not defined there, so it will not let us to create because under annotation of the namespace, nothing defined like a solemn.com. If I will copy it from here and go to end of the namespace, try to apply again namespace, try to apply again virtual service, it will work because we defined it here. So actually that's it. I hope it will be useful. Thank you for watching.